Fan.
Good afternoon! Hey, happy Monday! Danny and Dusty with you. What a football weekend that was. Happy Monday!
Hey, we made it, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man, we footballed so hard this weekend. Just all weekend long football.
It was a lot of really crappy good football.
I think all football is good football. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense what you just said there. That doesn't make sense to me. Where's my...
I love guys who like football. Guys who like football, they like me back.
It was all beautiful football.
It wasn't that I didn't like it.
It was great.
It was just some bad football that pulled you in.
Yeah. Which football are you talking about?
Sometimes
more?
football is bad. Just ask Dave Canales.
Yeah, if you're watching the Carolina Panthers, again, we got some issues, folks. We got some issues going on. I thought Saturday's football was great.
Yes.
There's some fun.
You had great football on Saturday, especially here in the Northwest. That's really all I cared about.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Oregon and Oregon State, the rivalry game, Civil War. In Corvallis. The Apple Cup was fantastic.
Apple Cup was lit.
Go Cougs.
Down to the wire.
Cougs receiving votes now in
Yeah.
the poll.
You did see, though, to your point, a lot of blowouts.
Yes.
A lot of blowouts. And why do we call close games ugly that we expect to be blowouts? Because like that Georgia-Kentucky game.
That was ugly football.
No. That's great. It's defensive. People just like points.
No. I like
points.
a good
I know.
slobber knocker.
Chicks dig the long ball.
But no. I like defensive games. That game was ugly.
There was one touchdown.
Yeah.
Only one.
No.
Came in the fourth quarter.
Last night's game.
But
Texans Bears was ugly. What was there?
Yeah.
22 penalties?
Yeah, a lot of penalties. That is ugly.
That's ugly, man.
There's a lot of penalties early. It's still early. Yeah. These guys aren't playing much. But also beautiful in that the Texans' defensive line just absolutely demolished the Chicago Bears.
No, not the Bears. Caleb Williams.
No. I looked at that. The offensive line sure did get demolished.
I didn't see an offensive lineman get picked up and body slammed.
Caleb Williams didn't get hit as much or as hard as Baker Mayfield did.
Oh,
and
I don't
Baker
know.
Mayfield...
That Danielle Hunter hit was...
Baker Mayfield got sacked 3 times by Aiden Hutchinson in the first quarter.
Yeah, it was
okay?
It was
Baker
rough going.
Mayfield got absolutely rocked when right before he ran his quarterback draw for a touchdown. Baker Mayfield was a damn dude. Baker Mayfield got lit up.
I've been coming around on Baker Mayfield.
Look,
I was not a Baker fan, but I'm coming around, man.
Do we have to have a conversation? Baker Mayfield,
dude.
He played like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL last year. He is playing like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yes. Yeah. All of the stuff, all the juice, like he's that the one where he's the guy that executives tell their owners about. Like, what if he could be like Baker? A guy that's otherworldly talented, but it's just a basket case.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, we can change him. We can fix him. We can harness it. He's the one that they point to. He's the one that everybody uses to justify everything else.
Yeah. Baker sacked 5 times
for 39 yards. Good Lord. Yeah, Caleb was sacked 7.
Just teed off.
Sack numbers are up in the NFL, it feels like.
And then my man, he ran the ball too. He was toting the rock, Baker was. That was fun.
Tell you what, the Bucs were not.
Running the football?
Yeah. Not a lot of plays in that game.
But
for the Bucs.
Well, I mean, that's the NFL. Plays are limited. Plays are at a premium there. You had Jared Goff threw the ball a butt ton.
Yeah, 55 is a lot.
Yeah, he did. I loved the weekend of football. I don't think there is ugly football. I think it's all beautiful football, and I think we saw a lot of it, except for the Carolina Panthers. That's ugly.
No, that's like. That's
ugly.
Are you reaching the point of this is one of the worst teams we've ever watched?
No, we forget how bad the winless Lions and the winless Dolphins were. I mean, those were.
If Bryce Young continued to play, they would be on that stretch. Level.
Bryce Young has been benched.
So,
for those wondering,
2 games into his sophomore season.
Yeah. Well, it's that sophomore slump that they always talk about. and somehow he has slumped from his rookie season.
That I was expecting from C.J. Stroud, but I'm wrong there too, apparently.
C.J. Stroud is incredible.
Yeah.
The Texans front office deserves an attaboy for what they went and did. That was they're a far better team.
I think the Panthers front office deserves a fruit basket from the Texans and saying thank you for making
Taking
that
Bryce
decision.
Young. Yeah, making it easy for them. And the Bears still
Quite possibly the worst trade in NFL history now. Like, it's going to surpass
the Trey Lance.
No, Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker.
Trey Lance is still not it. Herschel Walker
Yeah.
is the worst trade in NFL history, and it's not particularly close.
Yeah, if Caleb turns into a dude and the pick that they use this year, because the Panthers still owe a second-round pick to the Bears, if that turns into another dude, you have the potential for the worst trade in NFL history.
I'm okay with even saying it already is.
You think so?
Yep. They made a trade they didn't need to make.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, they didn't need to do it. Bryce Young would have been there for him.
Yeah, this is kind of like
because everybody's like, oh, we'll just take C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, this is a lot like the Boston Celtics and Philadelphia 76ers when the Celtics wanted one of the wings anyways. So them trading up to get Markelle Fultz was like, fine.
But okay.
Oh, no, please don't take Markelle.
Boom. Slap him right over the face. What a great weekend. And then we had drama. We had the bad may have been some really bad football, but the good was incredible. That Bengals-Chiefs game was incredibly fun to watch. The Apple Cup, incredibly fun. High drama. That Lions and Buccaneers game had drama at the end. So much damn fun. And now we're having all of the overreactions are happening today. It's all falling into place today.
I love week 2, week 3. That's when we start getting the ruh-roh.
Coaches are melting down. You've got panic moves left and right. I know who the next quarterback to be benched is going to be, and we'll have the audio from his coach today because, whoa, that was a doozy. We have so much football.
Yeah.
We're going to football so hard.
We're not going to get to everything today.
All right. Everybody have a good weekend. What'd you do?
Ran a bunch of errands yesterday.
Okay.
Had like a fall cleaning, as it were.
Okay.
Getting ready for basketball season because in 2 weeks, basically my schedule goes to hell.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That realization was there, but other than that, it was plugged into a lot of football.
Yeah.
A whole lot of Saturday
That's
was football all day long.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
That's life.
Wonderful.
We're all football all the time.
Yeah, my butt was firmly planted on the couch yesterday.
Yeah. I footballed so hard. I didn't see my kids from Thursday night until Saturday night at about 7:30.
Some would say doing that, right?
That's hard footballing.
I was footballing all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then yesterday football with my kids.
There you go.
We watched a lot of football yesterday. It was a glorious weekend.
That's the bonding.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, Saturday once I got home and sat down on the couch in there, my 7-year-old, she goes, "Dad, it's the Ducks and the Beavers."
Bam.
Yeah, she was stoked.
Which was it was such a weird feeling and such a weird kind of civil war that we had because you
can't see the breath.
A non-conference Big Ten versus Pac-12 civil war in September where it was hot, the weather was nice, and the environment was so different. And we will unpack all things Ducks and Beavs. We're going to dive into the Apple Cup. We are going to dive into the weekend of college football, the weekend of the NFL, the benching of Bryce Young that came today. But more notably, we've got a lot of 2-0 teams and a lot of 0-2 teams across the
Indeed,
league.
9-9.
Oh, really?
9-0-2, 9-2-0.
And then the middle, which is what the NFL prides itself on.
Squishy.
Not a lot there. Not a lot there. So these are 14 1-1 teams.
Yeah.
18
12
teams.
because you have the.
Oh yeah, because we got the game tonight. We have the game tonight, but that was one of the weird quirks of the season, the schedule this weekend. 14 of the 16 games this week had either a 2-0 or 0-2 teams playing against each other, and so there wasn't a lot of room in the middle for
between,
anybody
yeah.
else. I loved that end of that Chiefs and Bengals game. Not if you're a Bengals fan, probably a little tough, but
Getting sick and tired of these Chiefs.
there is so much to unpack from that game alone, and then everything else across the world of the NFL. We got fun with audio, But where we got to start this bad boy off, 49-14, Oregon's offense comes to life against the Beavers. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
front. Gabriel's got room 30, down the side 20. A block, inside the 5. Touchdown, Dylan Gabriel. All of a sudden, the running quarterback shows us he can run.
Dylan Gabriel flashing a little bit of speed. I still don't understand how he runs as fast as he does. His little legs just
doesn't look right.
Doesn't have a lot of leg drive. No. Knees aren't getting very high, but my goodness, he found a seam and he went up the sideline at 54-yard touchdown run. And the Ducks run away from the Beavs in Corvallis, 49-14. I think the big thing that everybody was wanting to see, they did see. The offense got humming.
Yeah, I'm sitting there watching that game. Oregon State has that 13-play death march down the field to score. And I went, Beavs coming to play. Oregon coming out after that drive and responding the way they did. Was it 7 straight drives they scored on?
Well, they scored on every drive of the game.
Okay, yeah. So it was 7 straight.
Yeah, outside of the kneel down at the end of the half and at the end of the game, they scored on
the scoring drives. Yes,
every single drive.
Yeah. And I think, regardless of how the rest of the game went, how they answered that drive, coming out and scoring and not sputtering and not shooting themselves in the foot, that was such a big step in them kind of righting a lot of the wrongs that they had in the previous 2 weeks.
A lot of reasons why you saw that come to fruition. I was talking about this all last week. That rotation on the offensive line that had become the big talking point for everybody about this Oregon team. You didn't see any rotation.
No longer a rotation.
The offensive line that we saw going left to right, Josh Connerly to Nishad Strother, to Pancho Laulu, to Marcus Harper at right guard, and Ajani Cornelius at right tackle. They have rushed for 350 yards in their last 6 quarters of football.
That's pretty good.
That they have played. And you go back to the negative plays that we saw in the Boise State game in the second half. Those 2 plays of Dylan Gabriel snap that he fumbled, that he wasn't expecting the snap, that was without that rotation in the game. The Noah Whittington rush for a first down that was called back for a holding penalty. That was without that rotation in the game in that second half against Boise. You fast forward to where we saw the Ducks in Corvallis, and that offensive line, no sacks, no penalties. And Dylan Gabriel, as efficient as he was, he had all day to throw. I mean, that touchdown to Trayshawn Holden, he was just sitting there just bouncing in the pocket for probably 4.5, 5 seconds, and then just was able to scan until Trayshawn Holden came open. Protection was better. The efficiency of that offense, 16 explosive plays. You average nearly 9.5 yards per play in that game. That was the offense that I think a lot of people were expecting to see from Oregon.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of more what they're leaned on now. And this isn't to take away from Dylan Gabriel, but the markets have kind of shifted away from Dylan Gabriel as far as like being one of the top 3 Heisman favorites, and I don't think that's a slight to him. I think the identity of this offense, as much as they have explosive guys on the outside and Stewart and Tez and Trayshawn, like they have those guys. The identity of this Oregon team is going to be their ability to run the ball, to dominate what they against everyone else.
We saw a tweak stylistically to kind of what they were doing this week too, which we saw some false pullers. We saw, the speed option that you saw with Dylan Gabriel and getting to the edges, the reverse to Trayshawn Holden where you have false pull and then you come out and you're leading and getting to the edges. Oregon's offensive philosophy this week was more tailored to the guys that they have instead of kind of what they have been.
Yeah.
And it was something that Oregon State obviously took a very long time, actually couldn't adjust to.
No.
Because they're using their athletes in space a lot better. We saw more of the check with me's kind of that Gabriel touchdown run. I talked to him after the game, and he was saying that I saw Will Stein basically stand on the field during that play. They came out and empty, and they saw a look from Oregon State's defense that they liked. And how often did we see over the previous 2 years, especially with Kenny Dillingham, but even last year with Will Stein, Bo Nix would get things set, he'd look over, and then he'd check with the sideline. We saw a lot more of that, and big adjustments being made formationally. Noel Whittington goes from receiver, goes in the backfield. They run that speed option. Gabriel, boom, 54 yards.
Yeah.
They are, because Nix and JPJ, center and quarterback combo that were reliable to the best in college football last year, they, I think, had a lot more leeway. And now you're starting to see they're coaching them, man. I mean, Will Stein is taking more of that. And Gabriel completing 15 passes in a row to start the game. I mean, he is efficient as all get
Oh, he's
out.
probably one of the 3 most efficient quarterbacks in the country. Again, I'm not saying
He is
it's
the most efficient.
I'm not taking anything away from him. I just don't think you're going to see him be. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be Bo in the sense of ripping the ball 40 times a game and being hyper accurate, just 400-yard. I don't think that's going to be the identity of this team. I think it's going to be more mixed. I think you're going to see him use his legs. I think you're going to see them get more into the 53 and a third as opposed to
Oregon is
running everything through him.
They have and want to be really balanced. And last year, I think Bucky Irving also is a guy that we haven't been really talking about, that running backs room and what Bucky Irving meant to it. You saw the running backs going north and south a lot more against Oregon State. It was put your foot in the ground, commit to the hole, and you saw more explosive runs. There was a stylistic tweak that we saw from Oregon this week, as far as how they were approaching, their, not just their own scheme, but Oregon State's defense and what they thought they had superior athletes, and they did. And that was probably the most glaring thing that we haven't seen in like in a Civil War in a while, is athlete for athlete, there was a mismatch there between Oregon and Oregon
And
State.
that's when it happens, when the DJs, the Boldens, the Mascarenases, the Achilles, like all those guys, when you start going down the list of dudes, that's the difference.
Well, let's not forget too, like Oregon State was down 2 starting offensive linemen. Van Wells, late scratch at center. We know they lost their left guard after the San Diego State game, but they being down 2 starting offensive linemen, you saw
when you're already thin,
that was a big factor in that game. And only 15 yards rushing in the second half. Well, look, Oregon's offense, or their defense, wasn't great out of the gate.
No, Oregon State looked like they were game in the first half.
The third down conversions in the first half, 6 of 9 for Oregon State, and they were keeping drives alive. But then you saw two of them in that first half. 47 of the 116 yards rushing came on McCoy scrambles, where the defense was caging him on the outside. So the edges were coming upfield, trying to keep Giovanni McCoy in the pocket, and basically funneling him back towards the middle where a linebacker could clean it up if McCoy wanted to scramble. We saw the 37-yarder on the opening drive where they had him at 3rd and 15. It looked like he was dead to rights. And then he steps up, makes the one linebacker miss, and the defensive line kind of did their job. He gets 37 yards on that one. There was another one where he had a 10-yard run, scramble in that first half. Very similar thing where they caged him, they funneled him to a spot, he made a guy miss, and boom, you get a 10-yarder. Outside of those 2 plays, Oregon's defense just bottled up Oregon State's rushing attack. 1.9 yards per carry in the second half, only 15 yards rushing. That second half, you saw just how good Oregon can play when it felt just like we were on repeat all past 2 weeks. Is if Oregon doesn't shoot themselves in the foot,
and you're just kind of waiting, particularly in the first half. I think you were waiting for that to happen. Like, oh god, because it was a close game in the first half. Yeah, and you're like, it wasn't antsy, but you're sitting there waiting. Like, are they going to screw this up? And this is going to be another tight game.
Yeah, you never got, when you score on those first on every drive, you're just going, Oregon State has to play perfect.
Yeah. And that's what I thought the most important part of that game, singular part of that game, was them scoring after the death march. Coming out and going, we'll figure this out, but it doesn't matter. You've got to keep up with us, not the other way around.
Doing it quickly, too. Yeah. Doing it quickly. And Gabriel now, 84% of his passes he's completed on the season in 94 attempts through 3 games.
Pretty good.
So he is he's averaging 31 attempts per game,
Mm-hmm.
and he's completing 84% of his passes. He was dialed in again on Saturday in Corvallis. The interesting part of this was you take the game out of it because when Oregon only has 3 penalties for 36 yards.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that roughing the passer call,
terrible.
that was one of the he was completing his throwing motion when he got hit, and he didn't hit him in the head.
You sound like me with a tuck rule right now.
Well, that was bizarre.
No, I'm with you.
We were trying to figure it out in the stadium because we didn't have, was it Mike Pereira? He was the rules official for Fox.
Yep.
What did he say about that?
He said it shouldn't have been a foul, period.
Yeah, that's what we
He
thought.
said that
but
is not roughing the passer.
like the only thing that we could come up with like in the stadium was that they wanted to see if it was targeting, and so they threw the roughing penalty and tacked targeting onto it. Why didn't they just call targeting? Because you can pick up the targeting penalty. Yeah. The roughing was weird.
Yeah,
that was a bizarre move
because the review very clearly showed that he was in his throwing motion.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I know you can't technically review that, but why don't you just go? There's no flag on the play. I should have just say you
because they can't take it. They can't take away the flag.
Well, you can though. You can go. I meant to throw it
even.
target.
I thought even Pereira said in the review that you can't pick up the flag.
You can pick up a targeting, but you can't pick up a roughing.
That's what I'm saying.
Like you can't do that at all. So she just would have called targeting. In like an unnecessary rough, I think you can pick that one up. But the fact that they called it roughing, it was like, but where?
Yeah, my thing is like you can. I think you can.
You should be able to.
All I'm saying, gray area here. You can say. You could call it an official's mistake and say targeting. There was no flag for roughing or unnecessary roughness. It was just targeting. Like it was my bad situation. This was the flag for giving him the business.
Oh
like,
yeah,
you
give the I misspoke initially. We're taking it all back now.
That's there.
that was one of the. We were sitting there going, well, what did they? At what point was this rough?
Look,
okay.
I reffed high school football for a couple years.
Hit 'em hard.
Did plenty of varsity games, and there was more than a few times when you'd have a younger guy out there. Hell, I was the younger guy first couple years, where you'd be like, just kind of walk that one back of, we're just gonna, no worries, no countsies.
Yeah.
Go over to the coach. Hey, look,
my bad.
We're
okay.
You don't want me to call this because if I call this, then it's this and this and this, and then I got to kind of find something somewhere else. It becomes kind of a whole thing.
Man, but if you take that that would be 2 penalties for 15 yards.
Yeah.
Or 20 yards.
Yeah. Procedural. What was it, a holding and a...
Yeah. No holding penalties.
Is there no holding penalties?
No holding penalties for Oregon in the entire game.
Because Oregon State had a bunch of penalties.
Yeah, the only penalties that they had was an illegal block in the back on Terrence Ferguson.
Oh, that's right. Was that no? It was
in the fourth quarter. Nope, it was a pass to Kenyon Sadiq, I believe.
Games are blending together in my head now.
And then a face mask penalty, which was 15 yards.
Yeah,
so
Beavs had 6 penalties for 65.
Yeah, but they cleaned up. They cleaned up the penalties, which had been plaguing them. No turnovers, didn't shoot themselves in the foot. That was a pretty complete performance by Oregon. Now, Reser Stadium was a different one. And this kind of goes to the Oregon offense being efficient. And I want to get your guys' thoughts because you guys saw it on TV. Being in there, and if anybody was in the building, you can text us on the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. Got some thoughts on Reser because it wasn't quite the environment I was expecting after Rust with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Good or bad weather, the golf course is always the driest around. Download the Langdon Farms app today to get all the latest news and specials. First on the Fan, the Oregon Ducks remain at number 9 in the latest AP Top 25 poll after a sound beating of Oregon State. A change at the top of the poll, though. Texas and Georgia flip-flopping. Longhorns now at number 1 after dispatching UTSA, and the Bulldogs fall to number 2 after struggling to a 1-point win at Kentucky. Ohio State, Alabama, and Ole Miss round out the top 5. Over in the NFL, Falcons and Eagles wraps up week 2 tonight on Monday Night Football. 5:15 kick on ESPN. The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites. Receiver A.J. Brown out for Philly due to a hamstring injury. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reporting the Panthers benching quarterback Bryce Young. Andy Dalton will start Sunday at the Raiders. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco expected to go on injured reserve after suffering a fibula injury yesterday against the Bengals. And Jets defensive end Jermaine Johnson confirmed he suffered a torn right Achilles in yesterday's win over the Titans and will miss the rest of the season. The Mariners are off today after taking 3 of 4 from the Rangers over the weekend. They welcome in the Yankees for a 3-game set starting tomorrow. The M's still 4.5 games back of the Astros in the AL West with just 12 games remaining, but are tied with the Tigers 2.5 games out of the AL's final wild card spot. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's the Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Oregon's 49-14 win over Oregon State was the first that we had since the split. No longer conference foes, no longer Thanksgiving weekend.
Everything's different.
It had a different feel to it in September. And usually, like, when you go to a big game, when you go to a rivalry game, I got to the stadium at like 7:30 in the morning.
Because you're a masochist.
Well, because I was working.
Oh, right.
But usually you'll see a lot of the tailgates, the early risers, the people who, for big games,
you
want to
hate hard early.
Yeah,
you want to hate hard early. You don't.
It starts
You don't.
early.
You don't. Look, if you're going to be a true hater, you don't just like roll lightly into hating.
It ramped up as the day got on, but it wasn't like you could feel that energy from the get-go around Research Stadium. What was the feeling like as watching that game on television for the loudness? Did the crowd look full? Because I can tell you it was not.
It didn't. And this, we talked about this heading into the weekend, is there were so many Beaver fans that were, apathy was a word that was used a lot. Now, there was a lot of fans that were like, I hate them more now, but it felt like there was a real division in the Beaver world of like, should I care about this game? Is this something that, I should, put myself, put my heart into? And it wasn't dead in there on TV, but it was not amped. Especially like, I'm locked in on, again, I keep bringing up that 13-play drive because I was like, okay, hey, Beavs are game. They're matching them shot for shot right now. And in a moment that they needed that drive, they got it. Let's see what they can kind of do with it. And normally I think after that, you punch that in after that long of a drive and you just death march down, you kind of get the roar, the just a wave kind of comes over onto the field. Didn't feel like it. Didn't feel like it at all.
They got a little ramped up for that, but I'll give Beef fans credit for this. When is a stadium, a college football stadium, the loudest for the home team? Third down?
Yeah.
Third down, especially in Reeser where they play the chainsaw.
Backed up in an end zone kind of a deal, yeah.
Oregon did not have a third down on offense until the 9-minute mark of the second quarter.
Yeah, when you only have, 6 total third downs in the game, that's tough.
Only 2 in the first half. So, like, you mentioned those 2 drives to start, right? Mm-hmm. They were in 24 plays on their first 2 drives, where they miss a field goal and then get a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Outside, even that, when Oregon got the ball in response, it was they march down in short order, they score, it's quick, it was decisive.
Just cut the legs out from anything that was possibly better.
And any of that momentum just kind of went, and it was done. Loudest I heard that place, and another props to Beeve fans, was when Atticus Sappington came out for the extra point on the first touchdown of the game. That was probably the loudest that the stadium was all day long. They booed him relentlessly. And Central Catholic kid, transfers from Oregon State to Oregon. Yeah, use that hate in your heart.
Yeah, familiar with it.
He knew it. He knew it heading into that. That's exactly what he was going to get. But I will say the corners of the end zone, or the corners on the old side, it's now the old side of Reeser, they were pretty empty up in the upper parts. There were seats scattered throughout the stadium that were not filled throughout the course of the game. And there were a lot more Duck fans than I was expecting to be there. And that's something that you and I had talked about. We kind of felt like that was how it was going to be, but we didn't. Like, there was always the Beaver fans that would always chime in and say, no, we're going to show out, we're going to be loud, we're going to be angry. It didn't really feel that.
It didn't have the juice.
No.
It didn't.
No. And that sucks.
It's a bummer. It's like, come on, man. Like, I get B fans, apathy about this. Hate harder.
Yeah.
It's so much more fun to hate harder as opposed to being ambivalent.
I would take the advice from Danny. You do this.
Oh, God, it's so much more. Oh, the Raiders suck. Guess what? Still beat the Broncos last year twice.
Well,
suck it, Broncos fans.
You're a petty Olympian.
Yes.
Like, this is what you do.
It's so much more fun that way.
Yeah.
It's so much. Look, Raiders I wanted them to go winless this year. They win yesterday. They beat the Ravens. I'm like, oh, crap. Like, I don't want that. But the next thing I go, well, They can win 2 more games this year, just both times against the Broncos. Why? Because it'll piss them off and it'll make me happy.
Yeah, I thought
I have a lot of hate in my heart.
Yes.
Did they mention this on the broadcast? Because I thought it was a cool little aside, and I thought all of them played really well. Did they mention who the captains were for the game?
If they did, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, Oregon sent out 4 players that are from the state of Oregon as their captains.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Patrick Herbert, Sheldon High School. Tatum Tuioti, Sheldon High School. Bryce Betcher, South Eugene. And then Atticus Sappington they sent out as a captain.
That's cool.
Central Catholic.
Also,
and
former Beav, yeah.
former Beav. They sent those 4 guys out to be captains for the game, which...
Not a ton of Oregon players on the roster that are in the rotation.
In all of... Yeah, those 4 are very important.
Yeah. No, you're wrong. There's
very
Oregon guys that are in the depth, but as far as
well, I mean,
impact guys.
and Oregon guys showed out on both sides of the ball. Trent Walker from Beaverton High School, Noga from Hidden Valley High School, the tight end from Lake Oswego, and I think they have another one from Clackamas for Oregon State. Played really well, but Bryce Betcher played out of his gourd in that game. Damn near picked off the first play of the game. Broke up a play, I think on second down, too, on the opening drive. Stopped McCoy from picking up a third down on a run. He was all over the field. He has been playing lights-out football. 13th round pick for the Houston Astros, Gold Glover in the outfield for Oregon's baseball team.
Pretty good athlete.
Pretty good football player, too.
Real quick.
And then led the team in tackles, 10 tackles.
Oregon's defense.
Yeah.
They continue to get pressures. They're just... Are you worried about them not being able to get home?
Not in this game because the design was to cage McCoy in.
Okay. Because
right, and that's what Tatum Tuioti had, I think, 7 tackles. He was really good in the run game, but the whole goal of their defense on the edges in this week was just contain McCoy, funnel him back to the middle. I mean, they got him for 2 sacks, but they were conceding. We'll meet him at the line of scrimmage. Or if he's going to roll out, then we play a catch. And McCoy, to his credit, just was sliding up, and he took off. He's dangerous, man. He is
he's an athlete, man.
He is not a run-first quarterback.
But if you open a lane for him, he'll go.
He'll do it. So I'm not too concerned. I'm not too concerned about that.
I'm raising an eyebrow to it because it's 3 straight weeks of pressures are there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Sacks are not the only measure of effective pass rush, but getting that many pressures, and when you look at the scale of pressures versus getting all the way home, I do squint a little bit. Like when you play Ohio State, like I feel like there's got to be a little bit more juice there. I'm interested to see kind of what that looks like.
I would be more concerned if teams were racking up yards against them. Because I think Oregon leads the country in deflections, pass deflections this year. So if you are getting pressures but you're not getting home, what's the result of that?
Yeah,
are
speeding
they,
up a throw and the defense is closing.
Are they completing passes and getting chunk yards through the air? And we haven't seen that yet. I mean, they're giving up 164 yards a game through the air.
Granted, quarterbacks they've played are not.
No.
Quarterbacks who typically throw the ball.
Nope. Nope. But you're also looking at quarterbacks are only completing 50% of their passes.
Which, and again, the deflections are real. Like that's a big thing.
They've been really good in the back end of the defense. And I think that what you're saying, you can start raising that eyebrow because what does it look like when you play against an Ohio State? You're going to have to get home, and you're going to have to make sure you're getting the quarterback down because when they have receivers like Ohio State does, those guys are going to be more prone to getting open. But right now, I'm looking at it when they're only completing 50% of their passes and only 164 yards per game.
You live with that.
You live with pressures in not getting sacks right now. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely sounded like you said not getting sacks right now.
Oh, well, I mean, they shouldn't be. I mean, you're trying to get to the quarterback.
Are you saying sacks are for winners?
No, I'm just saying that that'd be very awkward for the viewing audience if that was the case.
Shannon Sharp was having sex.
Hey, that's a new drop.
That's so great.
Yeah. Yeah, we got.
Shannon Shaw was having sex.
Kalen Clark is white.
I'll get it in.
Wow. Wow. Where's our other Stephen A? I think we changed the coding on his. We have another one. Where's the you can't stay off the weed?
Ooh, I don't know about that one.
We have that one in here somewhere too.
How do you do that?
God, that scared me.
What the hell is going on? Shannon Shaw was having sex.
Holla at your boy! I'll get it in.
Sounds all right.
All right. Well, there we go.
Good luck.
Transition.
Mm.
We will. Not quite sure how we get out of this. How about an ass whooping?
There you go.
How about we go to that? We'll put a pin in the Civil War discussion. Oregon beats up on Oregon State 49-14. We'll have Apple Cup coming up, but sometimes you just got to be brutally honest with how a game goes. Next on The Fan. Hey, you listen to the Ducks post-game show right here on the Fan? You listen to that? You listen to that after every Ducks home game?
The what in the
road
hump?
game? Ducks post-game show. You listen to that?
I heard you on it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, if you were listening to the Ducks post-game show, not you, Danny,
No.
or you, Rust, you guys are not eligible to win this.
Womp womp.
If you were listening and you heard Ryan Buckley and Will Ortner give out the Bellagio's Pizza's very best player of the game, text right now to 503-864-6326 to enter for your chance to win a free pizza at Bellagio's. Head over to 1080thefan.com for complete details. Send us that name of the player for the Bellagio's Pizza very best player of the game.
Do it
to
now.
503-864-6326. Quick little whip around the world of college football on the national stage. Alabama finally went north of the Mason-Dixon line and
Worked out for pretty well.
beat the brakes off of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
42-10.
That was not close, and they shoved that ball down their throats.
Yeah, they sure did.
It was not a let's throw all over them kind of situation. It was, let me introduce you to my offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to do that to a Wisconsin team is not a simple thing.
No. Hey, look, and this is the great thing. Kalen DeBoer's a damn good coach.
Yes.
Nobody is questioning that, but everyone's like, oh, you're going to come and just whip that ball around there in Tuscaloosa. Nope, wrong. A great coach, will tailor his offense to what they do well.
Mhm.
And they run the ball really dang well. And I thought that was going to be a better game, especially when Wisconsin looked like they were moving the ball early, and then first drive, Tyler Van Dyke, boom, knee injury.
Yeah.
And that sucks for them.
Yeah, it
and
does.
that just kind of, they ended up getting a field goal out of that drive, but they get beat 42-10. And Luke Fickell had a dose of honesty in his post-game press conference. And I am on board with Luke Fickell now.
Well, I'll give you guys the same message I just gave them. If you haven't had your ass whooped before, you just did. And it hurts, and it's not easy. But in this game, that's going to happen. And it's a part of the game. It stinks. It doesn't mean you didn't work hard. Didn't mean you didn't prepare. It means you didn't get the job done. And whether it's a 1-point loss or a 34-point loss, it's a good old-fashioned ass whooping at home, which hurts.
Mm-hmm. They got woodshedded.
Yeah, they did. They did.
34 carries, $181, 3 touchdowns. It was Jalen Milroe taking and running, and then Jam Miller between that one that he broke, the 34-yarder for the touchdown. He hit that thing and he exploded through the secondary, and it was like, that's different.
I am pro people naming their children Jam.
Oh, it's a great name.
We got Jam Miller and Jam Griffin.
Like,
it's great names.
Both running backs.
Yeah.
Is it short for anything, or are they just Jam?
I don't know. James? Jamarcus? What was Urkel's name?
Jaleel?
Oh, no. Jaleel. No. I thought
Yep,
it was
Jam
Jamil.
short for Jamarian.
Jamarian.
Yeah.
Hey. See? This is a strong name. Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Jam meringue. Can't do that.
No.
You can't do that.
It's the lemon
You
jam.
can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that.
Can't
Jam rust.
Rust
No,
jam?
I don't think you can do that because that's like a lock.
Yeah.
It's like you got a lock that's jammed and rusted
Sounds
over.
like you need some WD-40 for that.
Jam Hera?
Jam Hera works.
You can roll with Jam Hera.
I'm
You guys are. I'm working with the two people where it doesn't work with your name.
I mean, you could maybe go Jamarian.
Yeah, Jamarian meringue.
Yeah.
Ooh,
see,
that sounds like a good pie.
Right? See, that one kind of rolls out.
Jamarian meringue sounds good.
Or it's like Jamaican, like you Jamarian and meringue.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Jamarian meringue.
I'm pretty certain that'll get you fired most places.
Let's have a red stripe, huh?
Nailed it, Rust.
Now is when we throw our heads back and laugh.
God, I forgot. I love the Hooray Beer commercials.
Georgia got a scare too in Lexington.
That game was an abortion.
They almost
Good Lord.
lost to Kentucky. And
Kentucky's a thorn in their side.
Georgia they're good for one or two of these every year where you're just like, what team is this? last year's week 3 against South Carolina. Almost got beat in South Carolina. Also, Georgia Tech late in the year last year.
Yeah.
Almost lost to Georgia Tech, where
Run the ball.
Brett Key was calling the shots, right? So they were good. They're good for one or two of these every year. 2022, they almost lost to Missouri and Kentucky again. Like on the road, these games early in the year, their first SEC road game, they usually kind of just sleepwalk their way through, and that's the best description that you can have is, boy, they sleptwalk their way through.
Yeah, I mean, the difference in this game ended up being the one turnover.
Yeah, well, they need to play as fast as they drive.
No. Wow.
Well, 106 miles an hour last week.
Take away their cars. Telling you.
Yep.
Burn all the Hellcats.
Yep. Meanwhile, Texas had a big injury. Quinn Ewers goes down.
Oblique and
we'll go core.
Yeah,
we'll go core
injury.
oblique injury. And
he was playing really well too.
Well, Texas San Antonio. Don't think that they're going to be the bid for the group of 5.
No.
Have a feeling that's not going to be in the cards for Texas San Antonio. They got mopped by Texas, and that was a statement game because Ewers goes down, Arch goes off.
Good Lord.
9 of 12, 223 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 carries for 53 yards and a long touchdown run for
2
Arch.
of those were sacks because he ran for 67.
That was crazy.
And he stunted on that DB. He stuck a foot in the ground and made him look silly.
And that means Texas is our new number 1 team in the country now.
And I would say that Texas is deserving of that.
They are.
They look like the best team in the country. Both sides of the ball. Their quarterback room is the best quarterback room in the country, and it's not close.
Yeah.
When you've got those, you have 2 NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah. Arch Manning looked good. He looked good against Texas San Antonio. We'll see, though, how long, this sidelines Quinn Ewers for.
The good news is that Texas's schedule does allow for this. They have Louisiana Monroe, then Mississippi State before they hit a back-to-back. They get the Red River rivalry. They get Oklahoma at home, and then they get Georgia at home.
Well, Oklahoma, that's in the Cotton Bowl.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's
so that's the neutral site game. So you get the Red River rivalry after UL Monroe, and then you have Georgia. He better be good for that game. But Arch Manning, defending the Manning speed. Remember, he's not Peyton or Eli's kid.
No, he's Cooper, who was a wide receiver.
Yeah, he was the athlete. He got all of the speed.
It's just that Cooper's back
family
was made of string.
Yeah, but Arch went off, lived up to the hype, man.
Yeah,
he looked really good.
That's not a Bronny James right there. He's every bit of the 5-star.
All right, let's start the 1 o'clock hour off with a little. You want to go Apple Cup?
Let's go.
Let's go Apple Cup, baby. How about them Cougs? Next on the Fan.
Oh, Jamarian meringue.
touchdown to go ahead. Rodgers, option, pitch, didn't get it. They stuffed him. Cal Thornton, the captain linebacker, with a game-saving play and a loss of 1.
That was the call as seen and heard on Peacock. Paul Burmeister on the call alongside Colt McCoy. The Apple Cup goes the way of the Washington State Cougars. 24-19. Cougs rejoice.
Spicy little game. If you had just looked at the box
fun,
scores of this
man.
game, you would think that Washington ran away with it. Will Rogers, incredibly effective, 23 of 31, 314, over 10 yards per attempt, a touchdown. Jonah Coleman averages over 5 yards a carry. Giles Jackson goes for 8 catches, $162. I mean, you just go up and down the list. You're just sitting there like, okay, you win the turnover battle. You win, at the point of attack. You're winging the ball all over the field, but they just couldn't punch the freaking ball in the end zone.
That is a ton of credit to Washington State. And also, head scratcher. You are on the 1 yard line, and you have Jonah Coleman,
who's a wrecking crew.
And you just heard it right there, speed option.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
That's getting a little too cute.
Yeah. On 4th and goal, and I get it, you want to see if you can get to the edge because you do have Jonah Coleman. Obviously, Washington State is going to load inside because of how good he is.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go to the edge with a quarterback that is not, for as good as he is as a thrower, Will Rogers, not a runner.
No.
Not a runner.
No.
And you run the speed option. Okay. I mean, that hurts. That hurts a little bit, right?
It's getting a little too cute.
A little bit too cute. But I give all of the credit to Washington State, though, making the play, not being fooled by it, playing keys. And that was kind of the story of that Apple Cup, right? Washington, and we talked about this, the Cougs were a boomer bust team through the first couple of weeks of the season. Like, it was explosive plays. They would jump on you, and then it would be like, a lot of drives just aren't working out, right? Mm-hmm. But they won with consistency. Washington had more explosive plays. But Washington State held their own and played more discipline for 60 minutes. Penalties, Washington, 16 for 135 yards. That nipped them in the butt over and over and over and over again. They looked like they were in a good spot. Boom. A lot of uncharacteristic type penalties too. You got a couple of unsportsmanlikes in there. You had one on both team, rivalry game, mixing it up a little bit. But the Cougs had fewer penalties. They had more sacks, more tackles for loss. They came up and played a more clean all-around game. And you watch a team that was playing with the chip on their shoulder. That was the Cougs, man, and you can't help but feel for Jake Dickert after the field. He was on Peacock with Zora Stevenson, their sideline reporter. I love this.
The Apple Cup will be heading home with the Cougars. How?
Grit, toughness. I love this team. They stayed here for this. Sorry, I'm emotional, but I love these guys. They love each other. We said we were going to win this game not because we hated them, but because we loved each other. And that's what you saw there for 4 quarters.
That's awesome.
It is, man. We had Dickert, obviously, in the Pac-12 media days, and there was just something you and I, when we got done with him, we remember talking, like, because we had a long break between him and the next guy that was up, and I was like, there's something about this guy, right? And you're like, yeah, no, there's some juice in this guy. It's real. And you can tell he does give a damn, and there's real love for his guys. Like, this isn't an inherently bad thing. There are coaches that are always chasing the next thing. I think Jed Fish is one of those coaches until he gets to where he wants to be, which is ultimately Florida, which that job's coming open.
Oh, boy.
Probably next week.
Billy Napier. Well, they had a Board of Regents meeting yesterday, Florida did, which is never good. No. And there's the reports that they had pooled the money for the buyout already.
Yeah. I think I think it's coming next week.
Or by the end of this sentence.
Yeah. if it doesn't happen in the next 25 minutes, it's probably not happening.
If there's one thing the SEC is known for, it's patience.
Which happens faster? Billy Napier's
dismissal,
looming firing, or the time that it took for Christian McCaffrey to be maybe heading to the IR, and then on Saturday, oh yeah, by the way, he's on the IR.
Yeah, like I said, the NFL is going to have something to say about that. For all of they found no wrongdoing stuff with the 49ers, they told him he's going to IR. That is I will tighten my tinfoil on that.
Tighten that bad boy.
There's just no way.
Tighten that bad boy up.
But back to the Apple Cup. Is there any more of a gamer in college football than John Mateer?
No. He is perfect for if you have a coach that wants to preach grit and preach toughness and maybe not making every single play over the course of a game, but the plays that matter. That's John Mateer. Yeah. He is.
There's no NFL quarterback here. This is new era Jared Zabransky.
He is fun, man.
Where you just like whatever you need to have happen in a given moment that matters.
Yep.
There he is.
Yep.
And it's just this is the kind of guy who, when his career's done, anytime he's ever in Pullman, will never have to buy a drink anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's something cool about that where you're like, are you going to be a first ballot NFL Hall of Fame quarterback? Are you Peyton Manning back in Knoxville? No. But you're a dude who, no matter what, there's a level of I don't know, you only get it in college football.
And this win meant so much to Washington State fans.
Look,
they showed out at Lumen too, and that was
questionable coming in.
Everything heading into that game was they can't move tickets. It's going to be a complete home field advantage for Washington. The Big Ten versus Mountain West reality is apparent in Pullman and in Seattle. And meanwhile, in the state of Oregon, it was Oregon State fans trying to scream at the mountaintops, no, we are going to show out. We are going to be the ones that are going to be loud. Oregon State sold out Reser Stadium. And boy, it came game day, and those two narratives kind of flipped because Coug fans, they were loud. You hear the roar of that crowd on that fourth down stand that we played. You hear how loud it was behind Dickert on the field in the post game. Those Coug fans, man, they showed up, and it was like a dreary day up there up in Seattle. That was cool, and it meant a whole hell of a lot to Washington State fans. I'm happy for the Cougs and their fan base that they got that win, man.
And they're now in the receiving votes category of the top 25.
The interesting thing will be, remember last year, Washington State, they came out, they started 4-0, they opened up Pac-12 play with a big win over Oregon State, and then the wheels started to kind of fall off. And they came back to earth very quickly in Pullman. This year, though, you're not playing that same Pac-12 schedule, right? They won't have as daunting of a path, but there's a little bit of that fear that, all right, you get this landmark win, you get the marquee win, and that was similar to that Oregon State win. That was a top 15 win for the Cougs last year when the Beavs went up to Pullman and they were able to escape with a 38-35 win. Remember that game came down to the wire. They had what was the lead that it was 28-14 at halftime, and I think after heading into the third quarter, it was 35-14. The Cougs were up, and they dang near lost that game, and it came down to the wire. And DJU had a huge second half for Oregon State. Well, after that, their remaining schedule, they went 1-7 after that. The lone win being against Colorado. This year, you look at it, though, and your schedule is more Mountain West. You got San Jose State, then you go to Boise State, to Fresno State.
That Boise State game is looming large.
Yeah.
That might be a winner of that game could be your representative type of deal for the Group 5.
Well, Cougs and Beavs don't
that's right, they can't, yeah.
They don't get that. They have to be ranked high enough because they're not Mountain West reps. So that Boise State game does loom large for Boise State, and they're wanting to be in the picture. But it also, for Washington State, it's huge for you too, because if you get over that hurdle and then you just start picking off wins left and right, then all of a sudden you're going to be looking at it at the end of the year. Where does Washington State sit? And The big games are fewer and further between, and there isn't a Washington with 3 NFL wide receivers and a first-round pick at quarterback sitting at the end of your schedule. The end of their schedule is New Mexico, Oregon State, and Wyoming. Little less daunting.
Yeah, it's a little
less daunting to go through. So for Washington State, this is a huge win. It could be a launching point, but you always do have that fear, the war of attrition, injuries that could mount up. John Mateer is a gamer. He is a dude that plays with reckless abandon that I think Washington State fans love about him. But also, can you take that many hits over a 12-week season? That's a big one as well. That you have to keep an eye on.
That's the question you always have. Anytime a quarterback's putting the ball down that many times, you just kind of go,
how about them Cougs, though?
It was a fun game.
How about them Cougs?
Nice little bit of drama.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It was fun. All right, we have one more college football note that I want to get to. And then we'll dive into a lot of NFL because what a week 2 it was in the National Football League. As we have a texture on the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. Your dollar goes further at Vancouver Ford. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them online at vancouverford.com. Brings up a pretty good point. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. All right, this is probably one of the more bizarre stories that we'll see in college football this year.
Oh, silly boy.
Yeah.
Give it time.
Yeah.
There's always something very stupid. Like, I don't know, somebody poisoning a tree.
Well, as a texter point out on the Vancouver Ford text line, Portland State forgot to tell Washington that there was a serious case of whooping going on.
Yeah, holy, what the hell?
Portland State's game this past weekend canceled against South Dakota due to a positive case of whooping cough.
And an outbreak.
Well, I was reading a press release earlier today that Portland State put out, and they said that they had one positive case of whooping cough by a player, and then they had gone back and obviously position group meetings, close quarters, locker room, all that stuff. They said that there was a lot of points of contact around teammates who'd been in close contact, but then they had a string of upper respiratory illnesses that players were having and kind of the unverified nature of it. I mean, to think of how many guys were potentially sick leading up to that South Dakota game, to cancel a game, that's a lot, man.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like the kind of thing you hear coming out like a fourth world nation.
It's just,
you know what I mean? Like, game was canceled because of whooping cough, and you're like,
yeah. Huh?
What?
How does this happen? Now, like when you have a kid, you got to get your Tdap, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get, and that'll prevent whooping cough when you're around babies. But like it's something you don't really think about unless you're a child or you have very small children. And so to have a game canceled, wild. What they did though is they said, according to the press release that Portland State put out, they put everybody on a 5-day round of antibiotics, and we're like, we're gonna
quarantine, go home, deal with this. Yeah,
we're gonna nip this thing in the bud, and we're gonna make sure it doesn't affect us moving forward. I just got a press release from Mike Lund over at Portland State, who does a phenomenal job as the SID. Vikings will return to play at Boise State this weekend, so they will be going to Boise State. It won't be multiple games canceled due to whooping cough. It really is. That is a weird way for a game to get canceled.
Yeah.
Whooping cough.
Yeah. Don't expect that one. That's chop that up to the wild, wild world of college sports.
Yeah. And that, like, they didn't know. And, like, you're like, well, how do you got some guys that are sick. Apparently they didn't know until, like, Friday night.
Yeah. I mean, why would you?
Yeah. They're sitting there like, oh, boy.
Remember we had that case of the Black Plague that popped up here in Oregon a couple years ago? Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah. Was that a cat? Was that they got it from, like, a cat?
Yeah, but it was like, you think you're sick, and you're like, oh, I'm sick. Not.
No. I got the plague?
I got the plague, the thing that, like, damn near wiped out humanity. Like, you don't think about that stuff until you all of a sudden you go get tested and you find out, oh, God, if I didn't get this checked, I'd be dead.
Yeah. Be on the lookout. Whooping cough. Out on the streets.
It's tough out here.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you want to get a good pass rush, though. You just start maybe right before the play. Just start. You get that offensive lineman back right up.
We know that's not true.
They'll be like, I'm fine. Yeah. Bring it. Bring on that whooping cough. So, yeah, the Vikings going to be back this week. Boise State. No more whooping cough concern.
What do they do with the game? They just go no countsies?
Yeah, I mean, it's just canceled. That's like a no countsies. We'll just say maybe next time. Maybe next time.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Just like the whole idea, like, hey, we're going to come all the way down here, and then we're going to get here and then go, nope.
Yeah, so, this is the first game for Portland State to be canceled since 9/11. Because the FCS didn't play the COVID year.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's right.
First canceled game for Portland State since 9/11. When they called games off that week. Yeah, that game was made up later in the season. This one, I don't think they're going to make it up.
No, you don't think so?
I don't think they're going to bring the Coyotes
back out
and play that football game.
Yeah, it's true, because they already, like, if they had canceled it like a couple of days ahead.
Yeah.
And you don't already do the travel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just seems like
This text, whooping cough? Hope nobody died of dysentery. No, whooping cough is real.
It's not the Oregon Trail.
I remember in college, there's this guy who had whooping cough, and he was like in like the common area. He's like, yeah, man, I got whooping cough. It's like no big deal though. Like it's not that contagious. And there's like
the most contagious thing known to man.
There was an RA that was like a nursing student that walked by, and he was like, no, you need to like get out of here now. Like no. You can't just say it's not contagious.
It's like one of the most contagious things. Like it spreads very easily.
Yeah,
that's the whole problem with it.
Not be saying this is not a big deal. You and your roommate need to leave.
Yeah, you need to go quarantine. Your roommate's sorry, he's your roommate.
Yeah, that was like the first time that prior to that. Like, I was a freshman in college. Like, I had no idea what.
No, whooping cough sounds like something that killed somebody in the 1600s.
That's
it does not sound like anything that you have today.
That's right. But luckily, like, that RA walked by when they did, because it was like, oh.
Because everybody would have just been chilling.
Yeah. I would have been totally like, oh, well, that sucks. Good luck with that whooping cough. No clue. No clue whatsoever. So, tough out there in the streets.
There you go.
Well, go Vikings.
There you go.
Go win.
Well, speaking of no clue, Carolina Panthers have absolutely no clue with what they're going to do after, well, pulling the plug. Maybe the earliest we've ever seen it. We'll get to that and more on the worst day of the web. But first, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
Hamburgers, the cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on the Fan, Falcons at the Eagles wraps up week 2 in the NFL tonight on Monday Night Football, 5:15 kick on ESPN. The Eagles 5.5-point favorites despite missing receiver A.J. Brown. He's out due to a hamstring injury. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reporting the Panthers benching quarterback Bryce Young. Andy Dalton will start Sunday at the Raiders. Multiple reports say Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco will be placed on injured reserve and is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks after suffering a fibula injury yesterday against the Bengals. Jets defensive end Jermaine Johnson confirmed he suffered a torn right Achilles in yesterday's win over the Titans and will miss the rest of the season. On the diamond, the Mariners off today after taking 3 of 4 from the Rangers over the weekend. They welcome in the Yankees for a 3-game set starting tomorrow. Seattle still 4.5 games back of the Astros in the AL West with just 12 games remaining, but they are tied with the Tigers 2.5 games out of the AL's final wild card spot. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Live, local, and free. No subscription required. Portland's sports leader is 1080 The Fan. Time for today's worst day on the web. with Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Well, that sucks.
Well, it has happened. Talked about it coming into this week.
Oh, Nelly.
Is Bryce Young on the path to becoming the next Jamarcus Russell? The answer is yes. He completed 18 passes this weekend for 84 yards.
It has been so brutal to watch Bryce Young play quarterback, and it's not wholly on him, but I think
he's not helping anything.
Well, because he can't help anything, because of the fact of the matter is that his stature, his skill set,
lack of arm strength,
combined with the lack of talent around him, is an absolute dumpster fire in Carolina. And 6 points was the easiest line of the week. Maybe the easiest line ever in the National Football League. The Chargers -6 on the road. Good golly, Miss Molly. It was 20-0 at halftime. And in a blink of an eye, you're like, there's no chance that Carolina has to cover this game, let alone win this game.
When they drafted Bryce Young, and like I'm when I'm done with a quarterback, I'm done with them relatively quickly, whether it's Bryce Young or Justin Fields or whoever. I looked at that and I went, okay, he's not the most accurate passer on the face of the planet. He's not Michael Vick back there. He doesn't have an absolute howitzer for an arm. Like, I could not see how he was going to be successful in the NFL, because you're talking about a guy who's in the first percentile in size. He's, on the whole, the smallest starting quarterback in modern NFL history. It was like, well, he could be like Drew Brees. He's accurate. It's like, no, he's not that accurate. And it's not like he's out there and has the ability to push the ball down the field like you couldn't believe. Like, Tua looks like freaking, Josh Allen, arm strength-wise, compared to him. And Tua doesn't have the biggest arm. And there's nothing redemptive about him and I hate piling on the kid. I really do. But there's nothing about him where it's like, oh, if you got some talent around him, you got some coaching, you can see it. Because there's nothing that he does so exceptionally well enough to offset all of the shortcomings. And I don't know if this is going to be the Panthers pulling the plug on the Bryce Young experiment entirely, but boy, did the head coach, Canales, just get out there and, well, pretty much say that it was.
I want to keep that private. What I would like to say, though, is this is something after I watched the film, I looked at it, had a thought, started working on talking to the guys that we make decisions with. Certainly a lot of parties involved there. And ultimately this comes on me, and my number one responsibility is to help the Panthers win. And so this move, I believe, puts us in the best chance to do that this week.
They're worried about some winning in the immediacy, which that leads me to believe this wasn't Canales' call entirely. This sounds like Tepper interfering, but also it was Tepper that greenlit the trade that ultimately landed them Bryce Young.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that this has anything to do with, winning, or even Dave Canales having faith or lack thereof in Bryce Young. But when you have two performances like you saw out of Bryce Young, on top of what we saw last year from Bryce Young, you can't allow the locker room to lose complete faith in your quarterback and roll a guy out that is not the best quarterback in the building right now, because Andy Dalton is there. And we can say what we want about Andy Dalton, his ability to win or lead a team to victories at this point in his career especially. But at the same time, we went through this a lot last week, right? The backup quarterbacks. There's only 3 backup quarterbacks in the NFL that, according to Vegas, gives their team a better chance to win than the current starter. They are Mason Rudolph in Tennessee, Drew Lock in New York, and by a full 1.5 difference, according to Vegas, it's Andy Dalton over Bryce Young.
The ghost of Andy Dalton.
And you think of that where Vegas thinks that. The guys in the locker room see it. They know it too. And when you're out there and you have zero faith in your quarterback, look, Bryce Young may not be on the Carolina Panthers next year, but of the 58 guys that are on the roster, a lot of them will be.
Yes.
And Dave Canales is at a crossroads where you will lose whoever will be on that roster next year if you continue to roll out Bryce Young because you want to have this redemptive arc or you think that, hey, we can develop him. No, you need the guy that can help them win and win right now, because for the guys that are on the roster next year, you're going to be their coach.
Mhm.
Well, if David Tepper doesn't fire his head
you.
coach again and blame it on you. But for everybody else that won't be on that roster, it's you're letting everybody else down, and now you're getting into my pocket because I play for the Carolina Panthers and we suck, and maybe I didn't get the ball, or maybe sacks are going to rack up with Bryce Young because he can't get the ball out quick enough, and I'm an offensive lineman, and I may not be good here, and I may be not long for the Carolina Panthers, but you're going to affect my ability to get another job somewhere else. So all of those things played a factor in this, and I think right now they're hoping just to get some sort of boost in the locker room because it has been 2 weeks of dreadful quarterback play.
This is what the transaction looks like going back to 2023. The Bears traded away the number 1 overall pick to the Panthers and number 9 overall pick to the Eagles. The Bears received wide receiver DJ Moore, offensive lineman Darnell Wright, cornerback Tyreek Stevenson, Caleb Williams, their punter in the 2024 draft, Torrey Taylor, and they still have yet to receive a 2025 second-round pick, which will probably be the number 1 overall pick in the second round.
This is going to go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history.
Like,
I mean, it may go down. Like the Herschel Walker one.
It's the
Herschel
triplets.
Walker led to multiple Super Bowls.
Yes.
Right? That is the one. But this may be just as egregious, if not more egregious, in that
the equity
you traded in order to get Bryce Young, who is going to be your franchise quarterback, and you didn't need to do it.
No.
You didn't need to trade up to 1 to get Bryce Young. Everybody in the NFL was like, after the draft was like, nah. And usually you get a lot of smoke screens. There's a lot of honesty in that. Yeah, no, we weren't going to do that anyways.
Nobody wanted Bryce Young.
You were worried about Houston wanting Bryce Young. No, they fell in love with C.J. Stroud, and you're seeing how that's working out right now.
That's what I think exacerbates the trade even more, with the fact that C.J. Stroud is there. It's very similar to Jamarcus Russell, where you look at the next 2 picks after Jamarcus Russell are first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yikes, dog.
Yup.
And it puts them in a very precarious situation, to say the least. Bryce Young's not the only one, though, of the young quarterbacks who may have the plug pulled immediately on them.
Yeah, I think the next one's going to be Will Levis.
Yeah.
I think Will Levis is going to be the next one. You heard last week Brian Callahan, the head coach of the Titans, said, if we punted on first down every drive in the second half, we would have had a better shot to win. Will Levis had another just absolute head scratcher of a interception where he just flipped it out. It's like, oh my God. And that cost them the game against the Jets.
And the thing about Levis is the difference between Levis and Young. You can at least understand the Levis stuff because he does have the capacity to make some plays and he does have a big arm. But boy, are the boneheaded mistakes, are they egregious.
Well, and Brian Callahan, with this comment and the one last week, he's climbing up my favorite quote machine head coach in the NFL.
I think the camera caught it pretty clear, if I had to guess. So, yeah, I was upset. It was dumb. It was the same exact thing he did last week, and he cost us points in the red zone. And that is what it is. He's a grown-up, and he knows better. And so, I was really irritated that he cost us 3 points in a game that we probably needed it.
Dummy.
No filter.
Yeah.
And by the way,
he clearly told his quarterback the exact same thing.
No, he clearly told his quarterback when he said the cameras caught it. Yeah. What the F were you thinking?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Glad he has that relationship with him. It's not dancing around it.
Get ready for Mason Rudolph in Tennessee. Get ready for Mason Rudolph in Tennessee.
Get ready to speak Mandarin.
Well, they had a chance to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
And
it wasn't like the Jets were carving them up offensively, that's for sure.
No, the Jets have got their issues and they got their warts, but they could be 2-0 right now. Think about that with the Tennessee Titans. They could be 2-0 because remember last week the Bears got a win when Tennessee was up 17-0 and they lost 24-17. This past week against the Jets, the Tennessee Titans were tied 17-17 heading into the fourth quarter. They lose 24-17 again. In both of those games, your quarterback gave up points in the red zone where you had a chance to score points and separate yourselves in a game where you live on the margins in the NFL. You have 2 one-score games, and your quarterback
you flipped him.
Has absolutely cost you a score in both of those games. That is unacceptable, and that's when Mason Rudolph's probably going to be the guy who steps in as a backup over the starter before Drew Lock does for Daniel Jones in the New York Giants.
All right. Well, we talked about two bad quarterbacks. You want to talk about a good quarterback?
I want good quarterbacks.
All right, let's talk a little good quarterback plays. Baker Mayfield continues to roll for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here on Danny Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
.com.
Get in on all the lottery action with Jack Pocket. New customers, your first Mega Millions ticket is free when you download the Jack Pocket app and use code MEGA at checkout. That's code MEGA only on Jack Pocket. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-MY-LIMIT. 18 or older to play. Jack Pocket is not affiliated with and is not an agent of the Oregon Lottery. Promo code required for $2 non-withdrawable credit. Terms at jackpocket.com/TOS/free-ticket-promo.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year
It wasn't quite the offensive showcase that we maybe thought was going to come our way with Bucs and Lions, but it ended up being a hell of a game. A showdown where the best quarterback in the field wasn't Jared Goff, but Baker Mayfield?
Baker Mayfield didn't rack up 300 yards passing, but it was Baker made plays consistently, and he got his butt handed to him. Sacked 5 times on the day.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden Hutchinson was living in the backfield. And the thing that I love about it's like John Mateer, right, at Washington State.
Gamer.
Where Baker has done this now 2 seasons in a row with what he did last year in Tampa, and through the first 2 weeks of the season, he's been more efficient than the Baker that we've known. He had a pick yesterday, but it is when you need Baker Mayfield to make a play, he is making it now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like this irrational confidence that Baker Mayfield has that was broken when he was in Cleveland. You're starting to see it. You started to see it bloom again. He played like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL last year.
Yes.
And this year, in this game, especially against the Detroit Lions, where it was ugly, it got grimy, it was a gritty game, he made plays. Now, Dan Campbell and the Lions, they screwed up. Campbell said it after the game, right? This one's on me. This one's on the head coach. Head coach screwed it up. Having like 20 guys on the field at the end of half when your offense is running a play as you're trying to get your field goal unit on to kick a field goal at the end of the half, can't have that, right? But the game got grimy, it got weird, and Baker Mayfield showed up and made plays when it mattered the most. And that I love that for Baker Mayfield. You think of an offense where they had, was it 116 yards of total offense or 216 yards of total offense? 216 of total offense. In 2024 in the National Football League, they won a game.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here is the Lions, who last week dog walked the team into the end zone and just ground them into a pulp in overtime and said, we're going to run the ball down your throat, threw the ball 56 bleeping times.
Yep. And Jared Goff, you saw some bad Jared Goff come around. Todd Bowles had it dialed up.
Well, 55 times, I think you're going to put yourself in that situation.
Couple picks, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown got dinged up in that game. Yeah.
We haven't got the update on him yet, but it looks like he's going to be a little dinged up.
It said that last I read was, and I saw it on the ESPN little bottom line ticker, that he avoided major injury, which, look, Amon-Ra St. Brown played half the year with broken ribs last year. If it's not major injury, then Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be playing.
Yeah, he's a lunatic.
He is a lunatic.
But
so is his dad.
You look at what the almost the Rams, the Lions were able to do running the ball. They were incredibly efficient running the ball, and it's like, why didn't you keep running? I get it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary was non-existent. I'm not just saying that in the game. I'm talking about heading into that game. Most of their secondary was out.
Yeah, injured.
So you're just sitting there going, throw it. I get the temptation to do that. But you're running the ball effectively, and what has been your bread and butter is that you run to set up Jared Goff.
And you got those road pavers, man. You are set at tackle. You are set on your entire offensive line, one of the best O-lines in all of football.
Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, you just run behind those guys. And your pass rush on the other side is teeing off. Aiden Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks, and he had 5 quarterback hits on top of that.
Lions lioned, man. Lions lioned.
It did not look like what we have seen from the Lions for the past 18 months. But also give credit to the Bucs, because we talked about this going into the season where I said the team that I was kind of watching out for, they're just going to be a good team and people are going to learn to respect them, is the Bucs because of Baker Mayfield. It's a weird spot to be, to think like what this team is and what they're going to be. They're going to be like a 10-win team. Nothing special, but they're a good team. And Baker Mayfield is not getting the level of respect that he should be given after last year.
No, Baker's playing well, man. And you look at them and the Saints. The NFC South was, supposed to be the joke of a division.
How much do you think the Browns would give right now for Baker Mayfield to be their quarterback?
A lot.
$240 million guaranteed?
Probably not that much, because I don't think they're ever going to give anybody that ever again. They want to go back to the days of having the jersey with the names all over it instead of having Deshaun Watson just planted at the top. I think that's a better life right now than when you had. But hey, they did beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I don't know if that's saying a whole hell of a lot when you have Trevor Lawrence saying this.
Trevor, how stunned are you by the offensive performance in the last 6 quarters?
Yeah, I mean, we suck right now, so I don't. Pretty shocked. Obviously we had a great offseason, great training camp, and we got to figure it out. So,
yikes.
How do you sort through that? If you just holistically, not even just the Jaguars, if you're a team that profiles as a young, up and coming, good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, or insert quarterback here, and you go through camp and you go through preseason, because look, everyone convinces themselves, unless you're the Panthers or the Giants, that you have something you can surprise. Maybe not be a playoff team, but be better than people expect. And if you're the Jaguars, your goal is the playoffs. And you come out and you look like this in the first 2 weeks. Like, what does that do to your head?
I think what is going on in Jacksonville right now is it's just not the first 2 weeks of the season. That loss was Trevor Lawrence's 7th consecutive loss as a starter. It's deeper than that. Remember, he got banged up. He was like, once he's healthy, he'll be fine. They'll get back. This is 7 consecutive losses with Lawrence as your starting quarterback. And when you have those seeds of doubt starting to creep in as to your productivity, your offense, and being able to get off the ground, I mean, it's been brutal. And I think that it's not just a Trevor Lawrence issue to start the first 2 weeks of the season. You look across the league, we've talked about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that yards are hard to come by.
The quarterback play, there has been subpar around the NFL through 2 weeks.
Yeah, and this week it was better. You had more 300-yard passing games. Geno went off. I think he's heading into Monday Night Football. He's a week 2 passing leader. He threw for 327 against New England. But you had Geno, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff as your 300-yard passers. And think about that. It took Goff 55 attempts to get there.
You had a lot of sub 180-yard passers. I mean, 84 yards for Bryce Young. You had Danny Dimes had $170.
12 quarterbacks threw under 190 yards this week. And at 192 was Will Levis, who we heard what his coach had to say about him, right? Yards are hard to come by, and that's why you say, all right, early kinks in the season, they happen, right? Your offense takes a little while to get going, especially when you're not playing guys in the preseason, all yada, yada, yada. I think what everybody else has been saying over the first 2 weeks of the year. But you go back 5 more games for Trevor Lawrence, and I think that is where it is a little bit more concerning, and you're going, all right, when is the dam going to break for him? When are they going to get over the hump offensively? Because it's not just 2 weeks, it's 7 games for Jacksonville that their offense has been sputtering.
Here's your fun little moment with numbers. 3 of the top 4 passers this past week lost.
Yeah.
3 of the bottom 4
and Geno, it took Geno overtime to win.
Mm-hmm. But 3 of your bottom 4 won.
Yeah.
The loss there being Bryce Young. But Justin Herbert, Malik Willis, Justin Fields threw for 130 yards or less. And let me tell you, watching those 3 quarterbacks play was physically painful.
Well, Herbert you don't need to throw the ball when you just pound the ball down Carolina's throat and know they can't score.
Fair, but also that interception was nasty.
Yep. They happen.
There again, the nasty. You look at the interceptions this weekend, there were really bad ones. Not.
Have you watched the NFL?
I know, but like a lot of what the hell are you doing stuff, and it's like, it's not just the young guys. It's up and down, and it's just you're just sitting there going, I don't know. Maybe we just got so used to Brady, Manning, Rodgers, the consistency with which they were great. No, it's not that we don't have great quarterback play right now.
I think defenses are getting better.
You think that's what it is?
Well, yes. And that's why you're seeing teams run the ball a lot more effectively.
Swinging it back.
Is because what have linebackers done? Linebackers have got leaner and faster, and they're playing side to side. We talked about this and think of the conversion and how long it's taken for. Remember, 2 years ago, it was the big talking point was defenses are capping the back end. You're seeing far more too high looks at safety. Well, you're playing too high safeties because you're taking a guy out of the box. You're taking somebody out from the front seven and you're putting them back, or your 8 in the box, and you're putting another guy back, right? So now you're looking at true 7-man fronts and easier to run the ball, especially with leaner linebacking cores, and then also edge rushers are not built to stop the run. They're getting paid to pin their ears back, bend the corner, and get to a quarterback. So you're seeing more success running the football because at the line of scrimmage and at the point of attack, it's completely changed. And so when you have more defenders in coverage, obviously in defenses now wholly tailored to that, the pendulum does swing back. And this is what everybody's been saying for over a decade now is the pendulum will eventually swing back, and you will have running the football becoming more and more paramount to success in football, and especially at the NFL level. You've seen it fully take effect. The pendulum is on the other side this year because defenses have gone so far in the other direction that offenses are countering back with it. It's going to lead to a lot of lower scoring games, and a lot of teams that have really good running backs see the New Orleans Saints and Alvin Kamara, who looks healthy. He looks back. Those quarterbacks are going to be able to thrive and push the ball downfield more because teams aren't going to be able to sit back and keep everything underneath.
Well, 2 of those premier quarterbacks went at it. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh, what a game.
Had themselves a hell of a game. And then we had the primetime game between the Bears and Texans, and you might see supremacy popping up for a new AFC quarterback. All that and more coming up here in hour number 3 on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Hour number 3 here on a Monday afternoon on Danny and Dusty, whether you're listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080am the fan, or YouTube or twitch.tv/1080am the fan. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Love you, party animals.
All you sickos. You're truly great. Speaking of true sickos, Chiefs fans, I need you all to shut up. You had the worst performance of your quarterback's career by a magnitude of order.
I don't think you should be telling anybody to shut up over quarterback play, my friend.
Hey, look, they still got to win. All right?
Yeah. So did the Chiefs.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. The Chiefs did. Look, I don't want to win for the Raiders. I don't want to win. It's terrible. The worst running game in the league, and they still somehow won.
See, this is what Danny was talking about with pettiness earlier. Like, just stay petty, and it becomes more enjoyable because the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL, and they are a dynasty. And he's trying to chop them down by saying Patrick Mahomes played bad, and they need to pipe down.
Yes.
No, this is exactly why Chiefs fans need to continue to speak up because they have entered Brady territory where it doesn't matter how bad the game is going.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a puncher's chance, you know they're going to win. It's not like you have trust and faith that they're going to win. No, you know that they're going to win.
That's what I mean. He played his worst game as a pro. And it's not close. He threw for 150 yards, did 2 egregious picks.
Doesn't matter.
And they still won.
Well, not 2 egregious picks.
One egregious pick.
That, by the way, Cam Taylor-Britt, you talked that talk, and then you went and you backed it up.
He did.
That pick was insanity. That was one of the best interceptions that you will see.
Xavier Worthy, 2 catches, 17 yards. Didn't do a damn thing.
Yep.
So, good for you.
But he didn't get his hands on him. Didn't need to, though, because he got his hands on the ball.
Yeah.
Hand on the ball.
Hand on the ball.
Incredible.
But I say this tongue-in-cheek because the Chiefs did have the worst performance of Patrick Mahomes' career, and they still won. First of all, news on the Chiefs. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco going to be out for at least 6 weeks.
6 to 8 with the fractured fibula.
Yeah, they're bringing Kareem Hunt in for a workout because Kansas City is not avert to having scumbags in their team. So
they really are leaning into this Patriots.
It helps us win.
We're going to keep the window open as long as we can. We don't care how horrible of human beings they are. We'll bring them in.
Let's start from the back of the game to the front. 4th and 16. You get.
Cincinnati melted down.
They did melt down. It's a flag.
No doubt.
It's a PI. If you want to go letter of the law, I've seen some NFL experts that say, look, you do have the ability as a defender to go for that ball, and the wide receiver is backing into the DB.
Yep.
Sure. I don't think look, this isn't the Saints in the playoffs type stuff. Like, this isn't that egregious.
No, it's like in basketball, the rule of verticality, right?
Yes.
If you're a big man, you have to go straight up. It's same kind of thing in football with a defensive back. The problem is, as the receiver was backing up, the defensive back was moving forward.
Yeah.
And so when you have both of those things happen, that is pass interference. I don't have a problem with a pass interference being called. I hate to see that, though, because Cincinnati defended it really well.
In a perfect world, I'd like to see no flag there. But
it's not,
Yeah.
It's them's the rules,
Yes.
them's the breaks. But at the same time, though, if you want to have some criticism, it's why were you capped like that in the back end? Why not send one more? But it's Patrick Mahomes. He makes this play. Yeah. Like, this is the infuriating part about the greatest quarterback in the game right now.
How far that horseshoe is jammed up there.
Brady, whether it was, Joe Montana, these guys create enough time, and now it's Patrick Mahomes where they create enough time to get a guy open. And with Brady, he would just kind of slide, shift, move forward, backwards in like a little square. But it was like, how is he doing this? How is he finding this space to make this much time? For Mahomes, it is spinning around wildly, and you're like, oh my God, just get him. And nobody ever gets him. This is what we just need to come accustomed to. This is what the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now does.
Mm-hmm.
He creates that time, and he makes the play. The play doesn't have to be a completed pass, but right there, that is just meltdown city because it was on the heels of Jamar Chase costing you.
Yeah, that 15-yard penalty, you don't have the ability to take more time off the clock. You don't have the ability to keep extending the drive. You don't have the ability to push it down for a touchdown.
You have to be smarter than that.
And that for it to be Jamar Chase of all people, who's not a guy who goes down that path, it hurts more.
And he was wrong.
Yes.
He was wrong.
Yes.
He was complaining to the official about a hip drop tackle, which it was not a hip drop tackle. Joe Mixon has something to say about that, and Joe Mixon criticized the NFL today because there was a hip drop tackle and it was not called. And he's like, "What are you guys doing?"
Yeah,
like
and his ankle was underneath there, and he could have been hurt.
You are trying to outlaw this move. It happened to me, and y'all didn't do anything about it.
They have yet to call it. And through 2 weeks, there's not a ref has not thrown a flag on it yet,
and it's damn near impossible for them to,
because that's the
There's
whole point.
7 things they look for.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and that's it's
in a fraction of a second. It's like, oh yeah, we can figure that out. What in the world
and
is
the,
going on?
The only way you're going to get is when the next time somebody does it and they roll.
Yeah.
When you get the gator roll, that's when you're going to get the flag when somebody gets hurt.
Now, here's part of it too, that where Jamar Chase really crossed the line is the official. I read the pool report on it, and this is same thing with Major League Baseball and the umpires. You can cuss, you can MF an official in the NFL.
You can't say it about them.
When you say you are, and you make it personal,
that's when it crosses. It's the same thing in the NBA. Like, well, unless it's Scott Foster, you can. There's a lot of leeway.
He crossed the line, and that I take a bigger issue and bigger exception on that than I do the PI, because I mean it's like that is so costly, the pass interference, because it gets you in Harrison Butker range, and I think we don't talk nearly enough about how good kickers are now.
Yeah,
like 50 yards used to be, well, this is gonna be real dicey
unless you're the Giants.
Kickers. Well, their kicker was hurt.
Oops.
And they
didn't sign.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah, no, we'll find that one.
We need to put a pin in that, because that is one hell of a loss.
Yeah.
But now that kickers, and I think moving the extra point back has made kickers more confident. I mean,
well, you mean because you're getting 35 yards?
They have to be locked in every extra point, in that you're seeing the ranges are getting further and further back. And
Did
they
you
said
see the
after
college
the game
kicker last week?
No,
they 66-yarder.
I try not to.
Oh, he banged a 66-yarder, and then they iced him. He came out, and then they had a procedural penalty. They lined up to kick it again. They get a timeout because they didn't have enough guys on the field, and he kicks it anyways. It's a 70-yarder, and it's good. And I'm sitting there going,
that's pretty impressive.
Holy crap.
That's pretty impressive.
I mean, neither of them counted because of timeouts being called, but he hammers this thing through like it's nothing. It's like, oh my God.
I was reading the Monday Morning Quarterback, and Albert Breer said that Butker, I'll read the quote. Butker told me in pregame warmups that he felt comfortable. Okay, here. Stupid internet. Butker told me in pregame warmups, kicking toward the Arrowhead Tunnel, he hit a 66-yarder and launched a 72-yard kick that had the distance but missed wide. So going in, he told special teams coordinator Dave Taub he felt good about kicking from the mid-60s distance.
Which would be an NFL record.
That is, I think, 67 now?
67.
That is,
now we're 70 was what I was saying.
Now we're having kickers say they feel comfortable mid-60s, and now it's a small portion. Like Justin Tucker is no longer automatic from 50.
No, he's missed 2 now.
But you have kickers in the NFL feel like 50-yarder. Yeah, I got that.
They're not chip shots, but like, yeah, we're go ahead and put that up on the board.
And that's why that penalty means so much. And look, it's also the Jamar Chase penalty. It meant everything, because then it pushes you out.
Yeah. And
now you're sitting there going, boy, 7 feels a whole lot better when you look at the way that game finished out.
On the plus side for the Bengals, they are 0-2, but they look drastically different from week 1 to week 2. They're offensively, Joe Burrow did get going. They didn't get Chase involved too much. Only 4 catches, 5 targets for 35 yards.
It's because they played the Patriots the week before.
Yeah,
who were just dominant. Dominant. Their only loss is the best team in the NFL, the
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, the Bengals are missing more than
No, they're not.
just the Patriots defense and getting going.
Oh.
T. Higgins not being out there and opening things up for Burrow
tough, man.
is a problem. But even more so, the lack of Joe Mixon back there to keep them on balance, egregious. They ran the ball 22 times for 74 yards, 3.4 yards, and the longest run they had all night was 12 yards.
Look, but right when the season got over, I said that the Texans were my pick for the team that would regress this season because the schedule was going to get tougher. And then when they got Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, I was like, yeah, they're not going to regress now.
Yeah.
And they're not, because now you have Nico Collins and you have Tank Dell and you have Stephon Diggs and you have Dalton Schultz and you have Joe Mixon. Like, they are loaded. And they sat there and they said, we will not have a sophomore slump for our quarterback. The Houston Texans might be the most well-run dysfunctional organization in sports. Think about that.
And that's a perfect way to jump into it. Let's take a look at what the Texans did against the Chicago Bears last night in primetime here on Danny Dusty, 10 The Fan.
Seahawks football
Last night we had a primetime performance between Caleb Williams and Chicago Bears, C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans, and it's a tale of two quarterbacks. One rookie, one in year two, both with a lot to prove. Caleb Williams coming off a subpar is a nice way to say it, week one. The rookie quarterbacks in general, not doing great. Jaden Daniels, definitely the best of the three so far between Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Jaden Daniels. But the Texans coming out and showing that last year was not some kind of fluke. And through 2 weeks, to me, they are the most complete team in football. They have the ability to run the ball. They have weapons on the outside. C.J. Stroud it wasn't a flash in the pan. Defensively, they get after you. This is a team that, if they can stay healthy, they profile as a team that can do real damage in the winter.
Yeah, it's week 2. I mean, there's still so much more to go. And I caution on any sweeping generalization through 2 weeks of the season. They do look good out of the gate, though, and we'll see how other teams adjust and what it looks like moving forward. But I think their offseason moves have meant the world to them. They have been absolutely outstanding with their new additions, seamlessly kind of coming into the fold and being able to be productive, whether it is Mixon or Diggs. And then you see how much it's opening up for guys like Nico Collins, who looked absolutely incredible. He's looked incredible.
That touchdown catch was incredible. The way he
catches on the sidelines, though. I mean, he's doing it. He's doing it all. Yeah. I mean, and that is, they're seeing growth from guys from last year to this year, and you added more talent around it. Bobby Slowick is making himself a hell of a lot of money. Dude turned down head coaching interviews this past year. He's going to get a whole lot more of them moving forward because he knows how to call an offense, and he does a really stinking good job.
Final 19-13 Texans win this one, but it was a slobber knocker because that Bears defense is no joke. Defensively, that Bears team gets after it, and that's not a shocker. That's been their MO forever. In that, adding Caleb Williams, adding Rome Odunze, adding Keenan Allen was supposed to take their offense to another level, but that offensive line is atrocious. The Texans get 36 pressures on Caleb Williams. He is sacked 7 times. 7, including one where Danielle Hunter comes free right at Caleb Williams' chest in that second down in the fourth quarter, with the ability to hopefully push them down for a fourth quarter drive to win the game. And he picks him up and suplexes him. I thought that Williams would leave the game. I don't know if you noticed that when he got up from that play, how red his face was. It looked like that man lost a lot of oxygen. He came out and tried to step into a throw after that, and he got hit again.
And this is, I mean, one of the things, the pressure, offensive line needs to do a better job. And Shane Waldron, we saw, remember JSN Super Bowl week on Media Row, was like, not glowing reviews from him. But there's also the issue that Caleb Williams held onto the ball for far too long in college, too.
Always trying to make a play.
You're seeing it happen right now. He does the exact same thing in the NFL, and you can't do it. And that is a really tough habit to break. Getting the ball out quick is of the utmost importance, and you have got to be able to see it, get the ball out. Sometimes that just means turfing it. But you're seeing Caleb Williams do a lot of the same things in college that he did in the NFL, and it's not working. And there's going to be adjustment. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be successful or that he won't adjust, but you want to see his game take off. And if you're talking about somebody who is getting the ball out quick, probably the rookie that's performing the best right now is Jaden Daniels, and he has been doing a better job of that. Took some big licks against the Giants, but it is fitting the style of play in your system too. And Caleb Williams in Chicago has got to get the ball out a little bit quicker.
According to PFF, Caleb Williams is currently tied for 21st in time to throw at 2.81 seconds, which is a hundredth of a second faster than C.J. Stroud at 2.82. Yep. Justin Herbert at 2.79. Baker Mayfield at 2.79.
Yeah, and Baker Mayfield got rocked that has been a criticism of Justin Herbert as well, holding onto the ball too long. And C.J. Stroud, I don't know. It might be having Laramie Tunsil as your left tackle affords you a little bit of that.
Jaden Daniels is actually at 2.88, a little bit longer than Caleb.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy at 2.9, and we saw him get absolutely lit up by the Vikings front. So if you're wondering who was the fastest, Tua, 2.31, Aaron Rodgers, 2.38.
Yeah. If you hold on to the ball for too long, you will get rocked.
So your sweet spot seems to be about 2.6.
Yep.
That's where you see the Patrick Mahomes of the
two
world.
Two and a half seconds is how long you have to throw in the NFL.
Yeah. And there's only under 2.5 or less, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks.
Yep.
So
it's when you want to get it out.
It's an interesting spot to be.
Be quick. That was a great game, though.
It was a great game. It was again, that was that ugly game that I was one of the ugly games I was talking about, but it was a great game. There was some frustration, consternation as it pertained to DJ Moore. Anything?
Wide receivers getting upset.
You think that's all it is?
Yeah, I think it might. It's a little bit. You're going through growing pains. You have a rookie quarterback. You want to execute at a high level, and you are in the throes of it. It's a tight game. You need to have that ball out quick, but it's also, I think that frustration is also to do with his offensive line too. You know, I mean, it's a group effort. When guys get upset in football, I just kind of shrug my shoulders. When you continue to do it and you start the body language rolls over from one game to the next,
then it becomes a problem.
But I mean, in
Remember,
a close
he
game
was a
like
guy
that,
he did want Justin Fields.
Yeah, he did. He liked Justin Fields. 2-0 Justin Fields, that is.
There you go.
2-0.
Oh, you want to talk about the rest of these rookie quarterbacks?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because we had a lot of rookie quarterbacks drafted. But of the 5, only 3 of them are playing, and there's one big struggle bus.
Definitely happening. We'll get to that and more. But first, here's the Big Kahuna with the Sports On Update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Falcons at the Eagles wraps up Week 2 in the NFL tonight on Monday Night Football, 5:15 kick on ESPN. The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites, but will be without receiver A.J. Brown due to a hamstring injury. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reporting the Panthers benching quarterback Bryce Young. Andy Dalton will start Sunday at the Raiders. Multiple reports say Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco will be placed on injured reserve and is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks after suffering a fractured fibula yesterday against the Bengals. Jets defensive end Jermaine Johnson confirmed he suffered a torn right Achilles in yesterday's win over the Titans and will miss the rest of the season. And Rams head coach Sean McVay says wide receiver Cooper Kupp will be out for an extended period of time and could be headed to injured reserve. The Mariners are off today after taking 3 of 4 from the Rangers over the weekend. They welcome in the Yankees for a 3-game set starting tomorrow. The M's still 4.5 games back of the Astros in the AL West with 12 games remaining, but are tied with the Tigers 2.5 games out of the American League's final wild card spot. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
pomp and circumstance of the NFL quarterback rookie class featuring Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr., all in the top 10, in the top 12. Well, it hasn't been a C.J. Stroud-esque start for any of the top three quarterbacks in action in Caleb Williams, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, weirdly enough, has been mostly productive for the Commanders. Caleb Williams and Bo Nix going through it, have found themselves with some bad turnovers and on their back more than a couple times.
Yeah, and none of them have looked great.
No.
I think Jaden Daniels has looked the best out of any of them to start this season off, and he's probably with a coordinator relationship, probably in the best situation with coordinator and talent. The Sean Payton experiment, he wanted Bo Nix, he wanted his guy, he got his guy. It hasn't been pretty. I mean, Bo has been struggling, and the talent around him is leading you to believe they don't have very good receiver play, which that's a shocker. But only completing 59% of his passes, 4 interceptions, 4 sacks that he's yielded. Caleb Williams only completing 56% of his passes, and a wealth of talent around him, but a coordinator question mark there. And Shane Waldron, 2 picks, has been sacked 9 times.
9.
Through 2 games.
Yeah, 7 of them last night.
Meanwhile, Jaden Daniels, no picks, but he's been dinged up. He's gotten sacked 7 times, but is completing 75% of his passes. Coordinator and talent relationship. And you also got to look at Washington, probably the better schedule to start out the season with Tampa, which was a tough one, and they took their lumps down there, but he played well down there. And then you have the New York Giants, which is one of the worst teams.
It's the second worst team in football.
The stat out of that game that made my heart just warm. All right. The New York Giants scored 3 touchdowns while allowing 0 touchdowns in that game. Okay?
Field goal fest, yes.
Do you know the record of teams that score 3 touchdowns while allowing 0 in the NFL?
I'm going to say it's like 102-6.
No. It is 1,294. Hold on. It is 1,294 and 2.
As soon as you said 1,000, I knew how egregious this was going to be.
1,294 wins, 2 losses. The 2 losses are the 1989 LA Rams.
Oh boy, did that team
against the Vikings, and then Sunday's Giants loss to the Commanders.
Do you think the Giants miss having a kicker?
I would say so. Yeah.
So for those unaware,
yeah.
Graham Gano was questionable, and then they found out he was not going to be able to go after the kickoff, in which he aggravated his hamstring.
Yeah.
And apparently they don't have anybody else on that team that can reliably even kick an extra point.
Yeah, that's tough.
You would think just by drawing straws, they'd have somebody.
Yep, you would think.
Is it OBJ? That's actually the decent kicker.
There's a chief safety, the guy who was the chief safety who did kickoffs when Butker got hurt one time.
Justin Reed.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
when they also toyed with the idea of having that same person kick off.
Yeah.
For them because it gives them an extra tackler.
Yeah. So kickers matter.
Kickers matter,
whether we like it or not. They've been really good this year.
Yeah,
very
finding
important.
a way to have an extra point.
We've also had now 2 teams win games without scoring a touchdown.
Not too bad.
Yeah, you had the Steelers in week 1, the Commanders in week 2.
To be fair, that's how they're going to win.
Yeah, but 7, that's the weirdest way to 21 points I've ever seen. 7 field goals for the Commanders.
You know who loves that?
Who?
Me, because I took the under and I took the Commanders -2.
Yeah, that was the easiest bet of the day. Was the under?
Nice little parlay.
I've had 2 unders hit through the first 2 weeks. They've been slam dunks.
You can count on the Panthers and the Giants to cap those unders.
Back to the quarterback play and the rookies. Okay, you have the rookie quarterbacks now. Jaden Daniels is completing 75% of his passes,
which great.
He has attempted the fewest of the 3 rookies that are starting between Nix, Williams, and Daniels. Bo Nix has attempted 77. Caleb Williams 66, and then you have Jaden Daniels at 53 attempts on the season. So these guys are completing right around like 63% of their passes as a whole, as a group. They have yet to throw a touchdown between the three of them. 3 rookie quarterbacks through 2 games apiece. That's 6 total games that you can account for. They have yet to throw a touchdown. They have accounted for 6 interceptions, none for Daniels, 4 for Nix, 2 for Williams, and they have been sacked an ungodly amount, 20 times in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Goodness.
They've been sacked 20 times, thrown 6 interceptions, have 0 touchdowns, and are completing 63% of their passes, thanks to Jane Daniels, who's completing 75%, Bo Nix and Caleb Williams, both under the 60% completion percentage on the season. It's been rough, man, and there's going to be growing pains. And you look at Drake May, Michael Penix, and then also J.J. McCarthy having the ability to just sit back and learn this year due to injury. How valuable is that going to be for them moving forward? Because you would see the pitchforks out. And I love Sam Darnold is playing so stinking well right now for Minnesota. I am so happy for him. Did you hear Kevin O'Connell after the game yesterday?
No.
He almost started crying because he's like, of what Sam Darnold has been through.
Seeing
and
ghosts in New York.
Just sitting there and continuing to chop wood, and then boom, he's finally seeing a little bit of success. I love that for Sam Darnold. The clock is going to strike midnight at some point.
Oh, yeah,
they're 2-0 right now, and they beat up on the San Francisco 49ers yesterday.
Real quick, I just want to take a look at the PFF stats. The average depth of target for Jaden Daniels, 5.2 yards. For Bo Nix, 7.6. For Caleb Williams, 7.0. So Jaden's operating a little bit more of a check down Charlie offense.
Did you see Caleb Williams' net yards per attempt yesterday?
No, I would imagine it was very bad.
Well, it's actually through 2 weeks, it's the worst in 10 years.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams,
94 yards in week 1 will do that to you.
3 net yards per attempt is the worst for any quarterback in weeks 1 and 2 in the last decade, according to Austin Gale of Ringer.
Yeah. No, you can say the drop touchdowns that they've had, because they've had 3 now, would make things look a little bit better, but it's not saving it that much.
Rookie quarterbacks, they're fun to have because you have hope, but it's a really tough thing to do.
Yeah,
man.
it's a tough road to hoe.
Yep.
Coming up next, we'll talk about the Vikings and 49ers, and also the absolute shellacking that the New Orleans Saints, best team in football, put on the Dallas Cowboys. Here on Danny and Dusty today, the Fan. go dealer's choice in this one. You want to talk about an absolute shellacking first?
Dealer choice. Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's go.
Are the New Orleans Saints the best team in football?
Ooh, no, they're not. And I feel like we got that out of the way very quickly.
Did they look like they were?
Yeah, they did. They did. They beat the bejeebers out of the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, 44-19.
Over with immediately.
Yep.
35 points in the first half, and boy, did they run out of that gate quick.
Yeah, and they look pretty dang good, man. They looked all right.
The key to Derek Carr, after watching him for years with the Raiders, is if you keep him clean, he's pretty damn good.
That's a good thing to have with any quarterback.
Yes.
Is keep him upright, keep him clean. And look, I think the biggest thing for me is I look at when you have Rashid Shaheed, funnest name in football right now.
Name.
It's so much fun to say. Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, and Alvin Kamara. All of them healthy. All of them look explosive. And Kamara being healthy and looking like the old Alvin Kamara.
First time in 3 years.
That is a scary proposition, but how long will that last? Because history will tell us that he'll get dinged up, and that makes it really tough on your offense to perform at this level. But the lack of pass rush from the Dallas Cowboys was alarming.
Send out the search party for Micah Parsons because he has been nowhere.
And you're right. When Derek Carr has a clean pocket, yes, really damn good quarterback. But I don't think that the longevity of this and how long they can hold this line for, we'll see. So I mean, not best team in football, but through the first 2 weeks, they've scored the second most points in NFL history through 2 weeks.
Frisky little team.
The 68 Raiders are the only team to score more points. 1968.
Otherwise known
Oakland
as the Al
Raiders.
Davis everyone runs straight up the field Raiders.
Yeah, they use stick 'em. You know, they literally had stick 'em on their hands.
Shout out Biletnikoff, who literally used to put it up his forearms.
Yeah.
There's the old wives' tale about how he caught a ball with his forearm.
Yeah.
Which may not actually be a wives' tale.
Might be actually exactly what happened. But they look good.
Mm-hmm.
And the NFC South looks like a better division than what anybody thought. And we'll find out tonight. Do the Falcons actually wake up? Does Kirk Cousins have an actual leg, or is he just out there on a peg leg? Because
that
right
practice
now,
film was atrocious.
You have Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be a tough out for anybody. They're 2-0. The Saints are 2-0. The Falcons have the talent, but is this the same old Falcons that has had talent, but maybe they just don't? Maybe they're just not very good. And then there's the Carolina Panthers, which is going to be 2 free wins for everybody. It's like the bingo card. The Panthers are just the free space in the middle of the bingo card where you can just roll them up. Here we go. And beat the hell out of them. But New Orleans has looked really dang good.
On the flip side, Cowboys, you got problems.
Yeah. Well, do you? Or is this just...
This is who they are.
This is just Dallas.
They can't run the ball. The pass rush is kind of anemic, and you just gave Dak $231 million guaranteed to stink the place out.
Can I say I liked something that Dak said? Because after the game, I thought awareness.
Yeah, I mean, it's the NFL. I talk about each and every week. No games are played on paper. As far as riding a high, I know I wasn't personally. I don't think the guys in the locker room necessarily were. I mean, I talked about how much meat we left on the bone offensively, and that's simply why you can't listen to other people's opinions and read what you guys write respectfully. I mean, yeah, y'all may have put this team on a high more than we should have been, and now we just simply have got to reset. We've got to respond. We're not going undefeated. I mean, hadn't been done in 50 years. Woo, surprise. So it's about getting back to it.
I actually like that from Dak because
he stuck a shot in.
He's not just telling the media like, well, you guys are the ones that lump the expectations on us. He's telling his own fan base too. Hey, maybe you guys should shut up and stop doing it's our year. This is going to be our Super Bowl year after 1 week.
Yeah.
Like nobody bought it.
Yeah, calling them
except for their fans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple of national folks that kept saying that this is one of the 5 best teams in football. I mentioned that last week, and I just no, what are we doing here?
Yep.
Stop doing this. This is not that team. One of the teams that is and has performed as one of those teams for the last couple of years is the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
They had issues with the Minnesota Vikings.
And this is my big worry about about San Francisco, we talked about this during the offseason with everything that was going on with Brandon Ayuk and with Trent Williams and his holdout, is that, keeping Brandon Ayuk and keeping a young talent is important, because how many more miles does George Kittle have, who left due to cramping yesterday?
Had to get an IV.
Christian McCaffrey, and cramping is like not a big deal, but it's noticeably different when George Kittle is not available. And if he gets hurt at any point this year, what does this team look like? Deebo Samuel, history of injuries, but a wrecking ball when he is on the field. Christian McCaffrey's now on the IR. You're not going to have him for 4 weeks. And Jordan Mason had a great week 1. But there's a reason why Jordan Mason isn't a starting running back and was not a highly coveted and drafted player coming out of college. You're going to run into it at some point.
Sure.
And Minnesota jumped on him early. But I don't think like this is any sort of indictment on the 49ers and their window being open. It is, you see how thin that line is between being one of the elite teams in the NFL
and being just another dude.
Yeah, and going on the road is really hard to do in the NFL, and it's really hard to do in any level of football. But you go on the road to Minnesota, and you saw that 97-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Flips the game on its head, man. And those ebbs and flows of a game, I'm not concerned about San Francisco. I think they'll be just fine, but you're only a couple injuries away from, and Bosa went out too yesterday, which that should surprise nobody.
All right, coming next, put a nice little bow on today's show. A little look at the Battle of the Birds here tonight on Monday Night Football.
No, this is our final segment.
Oh, well, we are there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Never mind.
We're here.
Yeah. We're sticking around for another few minutes.
Oh, my bad. I'm all twisted up.
Math is hard.
It's the breaks in my head.
We're math, and sometimes the math doesn't math for you.
That's right.
But
let's talk about birds then.
I love birds.
You like birds?
I love birds.
Aren't real.
I'm going to start this. We want to go here? Power lines are charging stations.
Yeah. Falcons, Eagles.
Yeah.
Eagles look like crap. Still got the win last week. Jalen Hurts. But on the index of quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, if he's out there with a peg leg, do you just go to Penix?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, and I don't know how quick that hook is going to be. Obviously, they want to protect Michael Penix Jr. for as long as they can.
From also being injured because he's made of glass.
See that rookie quarterback conversation that we had earlier, where you think about the struggles that you'll go through. And look, Penix had the best offensive line in college football last year. They actually won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in college football.
It's a good place to be.
He also had 3 receivers that are all performing very well through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. You go to Atlanta, where the NFL is a different animal. It's going to take a little bit of time, and that doesn't mean that Michael Penix is some slouch, but and won't work out at quarterback. Being a starting quarterback in the NFL, not an easy thing. And I think the 3 guys that are starting right now have shown that. They're going to want to protect Michael Penix for as long as they possibly can. But you can't roll Kirk Cousins out if he looked like he did in week 1 against Pittsburgh, or if he looked anything like he did in that practice footage that was released last week, where he was literally skipping as he was trying to drop back because he can't put pressure on that foot. Don't like it.
No.
Don't like it one bit.
This whole idea about him, like he's going to be ready in a couple weeks. They're like, oh, he's on par. He's supposed to be like 80, 85%. If you're 80, 85% coming back from an Achilles injury, you can't plant your bleeping foot. What the hell are you doing out there?
It's important when you're trying to throw a football, I've read.
It's not like Kirk Cousins has the biggest arm to begin with.
Also, that win in Brazil looked a lot better when you saw the Green Bay Packers settle in when they were at home for the Philadelphia Eagles. That win in Brazil on that Friday night, because without Jordan Love and Malik Willis in, they didn't throw the ball a lot.
No.
Like at all.
At all.
But their defense
Would they run it
held
like
up
53 times or something like that?
Yeah. And they don't want to have Malik Willis out there at quarterback. He's been on the team.
Times.
Well, he's been on the team for like 3
days.
weeks.
Yeah, 22 days is what it was.
It's ridiculous.
Anthony Richardson looked stellar in the good moments and egregious in the bad moments. There was no in between.
That's the Anthony Richardson show.
Yeah.
That's how he plays that quarterback position, man. Where
He had flags on 2 plays that probably would have gone for scores.
He
And it's
looks
just, you know.
he looks like the best quarterback in the world, and then he looks absolutely head scratching the very next play. It's the weirdest thing in the
You
world.
put up with it on the development scale just because he's played so little football,
Well,
right?
yeah, and
'Cause
he's young,
20
and he
years
only played
old.
4 games last
Yeah.
year. I mean, yeah,
Because the
gonna
high
need
end,
room
you're
to
like
grow.
this is not to contrast this to Bryce Young. He's enormous. He has the arm strength. He has the talent that you see the high end, right? Like there's things there that you go, look, the bad's bad, but the good is pretty damn good.
Yeah, and you try to like quarterback development is a lot of it is you can't get away with this in the NFL. Everything that you've been able to get away with your entire life,
You have to pull that in.
you cannot do. Whether it is the overconfidence in a throw that I can put this in that tight window and that window won't close up in an instant. Well, it does in the NFL.
Yeah.
Or I can lower my shoulder and I can run like I'm a running back when I'm a quarterback. That's like those are the 2 biggest issues.
Roquan Smith is
with
going to run
Anthony
and
Richardson.
eat you alive.
Yeah, and we saw him get hurt because of his running style last year, and we've seen him kind of hurt his team with some of those throws.